Now you're probably watching this because you want to get your first pull-up, or you're probably thinking, well, if that old guy can get a pull-up, so can I. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you the techniques that I think are going to give you the greatest chance of success at getting your first pull-up. So here we go. Now, for some of you, the idea of trying to get your whole body weight above a bar may seem quite impossible at this moment in time, but so let's start off really easy. Let's get that motivation going. If this is too easy, just skip through to the next section. But for many of you, you need a really easy place to start. Okay, so what I'm going to do is show you what we call the post pull-up, and this involves just holding on to a post or a bar of some kind, placing your feet either side of that post and just leaning back. And the idea behind this is to try to get the movement encapsulated by engaging all of those muscles that you're going to be using when you're going to be pulling up. So although this is really quite easy for many of you, it does help you understand the mechanics of that move. So slow it right down, feel yourself pulling towards the bar, engaging those shoulder and back muscles, and coming up slowly and then letting yourself down slowly. If you want to make it even more difficult, then you can start to move your feet forward. Just be careful not to move them forward too far. You're going to crush the family crown jewels. But and then you can just carry on in this fashion. And when you've worked your way up to 50 or so, then we can move on to the next progression. So this first progression involves the use of some gymnastic rings. Now I highly recommend, if you can afford to purchase a pair of these, because they're really versatile. What it is that you can wrap these around a pull-up bar, you can wrap them around a tree, or even the pull-up bar is that you've got across the door frame inside your house if you've got one of those. And as I said, they're very versatile. They're easily adjustable with the strap mechanisms up here, so you can range on different heights, etc., depending on what you're trying to achieve. And what we're going to do first of all is that I'm going to show you what's called the Australian row, and this is an exercise which will help you start to build up strength in those muscles that you require to do your pull-up. Everything that I'm going to be doing on these rings you can achieve on a bar, and I will show you those progressions, the exact same progressions on a bar as well. So let's get started. So the first progression using the rings. Set the rings up at about chest height. As I said, the rings can be varied up and down to make the exercise easier or more difficult, but let's start at chest height. And we're going to place the rings at around shoulder width apart, okay? Now, grab hold of the handles and place your feet directly underneath the handles. If you find that too difficult, place your feet further back, because what you'll find is as you lean back, the angle will be less acute, so it's easier to pull. The further forward you have your feet, the sharper the angle becomes, and the more difficult it becomes to pull upright. And what we're looking to do here is to maintain a slow, steady pull. We're not going to be jerking, because what we're trying to do here is to increase strength. And if you haven't built up the requisite strength yet, jerking or pulling motions of that sort may cause you an injury. So take it easy, and we're looking to build up to sets of around 20 to 25. So we'll perform 25 of these pulls, and when you pull, you can have your hands in this particular position, as I say, pronated with your palms down, or as you pull towards you, you can twist your hands round. I would suggest that you keep your hands in this particular position because it recreates what you'll be doing actually on a pull-up bar. You can also see that here I'm keeping a tight core. I'm keeping myself tight in my core. If you're finding that problematic, what I would suggest you do is that you step back a little bit and make the progression more easy. So as I said, we're building up to sets of 20 to 25 with about a minute or two's rest in between. And when you can achieve that, what I would suggest you do is then you start to move your feet forward to make the progression more difficult. And as you become even stronger, your feet can move further and further forward, and the exercise becomes more and more difficult, till eventually you will find yourself going completely under the bar, at which point you know it's time to lower the rings. So at that point what we can do is we can lower the rings down which I'll do in just one moment. Okay, now you can see that I've lowered the rings down to about hip height, and it's just a matter of repeating exactly what you did when the rings were at chest height. We're looking to achieve around 20 to 25 repetitions over 3 sets. We're taking a minute or two's rest in between, and we'll be doing this once or twice a week to start with. Eventually you might want to, as you get stronger, you can increase that to 3 times a week. Depends on how much time you've got and how quickly you want to achieve that first pull-up. So again, the setup's exactly the same. Grab the rings in that pronated grip, as I said, with your palms down, and then we're going to step ourselves backward. And as we do, you can see now the angle is a lot steeper. Again, keep that core tight and pull upright, nice controlled fashion. That's right, up and slowly back down. In fact, you'll build more strength the slower that you go back, because the eccentric phase is where you can build that strength even more than the concentric, the pulling phase. So keep that good form, that nice tight core, pulling up to chest level. And then as that becomes too easy, as I said, you can move your feet forward and keep moving forward till eventually what will happen is you will be directly underneath the rings. Then at that point, you're almost on the floor. And from this, if you can then perform 20 to 25 repetitions, you'll be more than strong enough, over 3 sets I should say, you'll be more than strong enough to go on to the next progression. There we go. So here we are about to go on to the next progression. This is called a jackknife pull-up. The difference between this one and the Australian row is that it more easily recreates the action of the pull-up, the vertical action of the pull-up. Rather than being horizontal, your arms are going to be moving in a vertical direction, up and down. And to achieve that, you set the rings up so that when you sit down on the ground, your arms are fully extended, gripping onto the rings. Your legs will be forward, straight, your ankles into the ground, or so I should say your heels, not your ankles, are into the ground, and you're going to be pulling upwards, holding and letting yourself down. Now, if you find this difficult to start with, you can either go back to the Australian rows to increase strength there by making the progressions even more difficult, or you can move your feet forward a little bit and pull yourself upright. The more you extend your feet forward, the more difficult it becomes. Now, when I pull myself upwards in this fashion, my hands are pronated. If you're finding that difficult, again, you can turn your hands round to make it a more neutral grip and pull yourself upright. However, if you're looking to achieve a pull-up on a bar, it's best to get used to the pronated grip, your palms facing away from you as you pull upright. And again, what we're looking to do here is we're looking to achieve reps of around 15 to 20 in this instance. That should be enough to get you to the required strength level. And there are various other things that we can do to make this more difficult. So, for example, you could raise your feet onto a chair and perform the pull-ups. Or you could raise one leg. Till eventually you'll find that you have the right amount of strength to actually pull yourself off the ground. Now, sometimes doing partial reps can be a help as well. So you could find yourself just coming partially up, but they're an accessory, they're something that can help to push you that extra little bit of distance toward the final pull-up. I would concentrate really on getting that full range of motion. Now, everything that I've achieved on the ring and all the progressions that I've shown you on the ring to achieve your first pull-up can equally be done on a bar if you don't want to buy a pair of rings or you have access to a pull-up bar itself. And so let's start with the first progression that I showed you, and that was the Australian rows. Again, you could do this just standing upright, really nice and easy, but as that becomes totally achievable, what we can do is start to move our feet forward, just like we did when we were using the rings. So we just find a place that we can place our feet nice and steady, and then nice and easy up and down, feeling yourself, pulling yourself up, squeezing those shoulder blades together as we come up, and slowly releasing yourself down. Again, we're looking to achieve 3 sets of around 25 reps, nice and controlled. When that becomes too easy, we can then move our feet forward again in this fashion. If you're finding that difficult to keep your feet or keep your legs straight, you can bend your legs slightly, but that makes it easier. So just make sure that you do keep moving your feet forward, whether bent or straight, till eventually you can move your feet all the way forward and perform that pull-up. Now, I've got a rather large bar here, so I'm wrapping my thumbs over the top. Ideally, you'd have your thumbs underneath, but for me it's easier to do it in this fashion. Now, the only disadvantage that I can think about using a bar to perform these progressions as opposed to using a ring is that the bar is fixed in height. So unlike the rings where we could move from chest height down to hip height and even lower if your arms are short and that's where your body is flat against the ground, you can't necessarily move the bar unless you have access to a number of different bars, or you're in a gym where you can use the power cage and use a barbell to go up and down where you rack the weights. So as I said, the only disadvantage being that you would then move straight from wherever your bar set height is onto the jackknife progressions straight away. So you'd need to be really building up a considerable amount of strength. So what I suggest you do is you really, if you just got the bar, to slow your reps down. Okay, so you can gain extra strength by having more time under tension to achieve that same strength level. Okay, so now we're going to get on to the jackknife progressions actually on the bar. So once again, like with the rings, your arms are extended upright, so it recreates that pull-up action, and you're going to jackknife using your heels as the lever to pull yourself upright. Again, I've got my thumbs over the bar because it's a rather thick bar and it makes it slightly easier to pull myself up, but ideally you'd have your thumbs to create greater grip wrapped around that bar itself. So again, make sure that the movement is straight, smoothly up and smoothly down, and the slower you do it, the more strength you're going to gain. Again, we're looking for progressions of around 15 to 20 over 3 sets, and by that point you can then move up to either going with one leg, or you can raise your legs onto a box or a chair as I showed you with the rings. Then eventually you should be strong enough at that point to achieve your first pull-up from the ground. So there you have it, guys. All the progressions, in my opinion, that you need to perform your first successful pull-up. All I'd say is that if you are consistent in your approach to this, if you can train 2 to 3 times a week with at least a day's rest in between, and that you perform the number of reps and the number of sets that I've said with the rest period, etc., there's no reason why within a month or 2 you can't be attaining or performing your first pull-up. So best of luck, guys, and if you've enjoyed this video, please would you subscribe. Feel free to add comments down below if you've got any questions to ask, and share the video around. I've really enjoyed making this for you. So until next time, goodbye.